Welcome back to the live morning show presented by Don Bullock Chevrolet. We are honored to have Jennifer Faulkner with us. Jennifer from Christian Adoption Services, and she is the North Carolina Domestic Adoption Supervisor. Jennifer, thank you for being here.
You're so welcome. Glad to be here.
This is not the first time we've had a conversation, so let's jump right back in. Very briefly, tell our viewers what the Christian Adoption Services are and what you do.
All right, so Christian Adoption Services, we are a full-service agency here in North and South Carolina. That means that we serve families that are hopeful adoptive parents and they want to become adoptive parents. We also work with women who are pregnant, considering adoption, not ready to parent. And we also, through the Baptist Children's Home, we are a division of the Baptist Children's Home. We have a foster to adopt program. So we have 3 different areas that we work very ministry mindset, and we have been Christian Adoption Services. We've been around for over 40 years. It's been here a long time.
In today's world, there's so much that is thrown at us from life, news, everything. And everything has such a short time span to it. You hear about it, it's the hot news, and we move on to something else.
That's right.
Tell us, if you would please, a little bit about what the status of adoption is in North and South Carolina, the need, just where does it stand? Because I don't think that unless people are confronted with it, or it is something that has happened to them in their lives, that this is one of the things that they think about. What is the state of adoption in North and South Carolina today?
Well, I think one thing that we need to remember is that there will always be more hopeful adoptive parents in the waiting process than there will be women who actually choose adoption.
Okay.
So I think sometimes society has this view that agencies, like we have bassinets lined up in our office and there are babies waiting, when in reality there are several families that are on the list that are hoping to adopt in hopes that a young lady will choose adoption. On the expectant parent side, that is a different domestic side where women, they're facing a pregnancy that they didn't plan, or perhaps they did plan and life is not going as they expected. Mm-hmm. And there are women right here in Nash County that they're not in a position to parent well, or perhaps they don't have the wherewithal to parent the way that their children feel that they should. So it is a very hard decision to come to when you're pregnant. You obviously have 3 options, but the one most important fact I want everybody to take away this morning is that adoption offers choices. You have a choice to be involved in your child's life, to have that level of openness, or should you desire to have contact in the future and you may not be ready to, that you have those choices. There's a huge controversy over abortion now, but the most important thing that you want to remember is that, adoption offers choices, parenting offers choices. Abortion doesn't offer you any more choices.
I want to come back to the abortion debate in just a moment. Let me go back to something you said. For our young people, our preteens, our teens, and even young people that go to college, at least when I was growing up, there was no discussion whatsoever.
That's right.
About any of the topics that we're talking about. I think there is discussion in the school now, but is adoption even talked about in the schools when we talk to our young people about how, as they grow up and as they have the responsibilities that maturing young people and adults have?
So that is a very good point. The one thing that I will say, working with those that are in healthcare, those that are providers, or perhaps you have your client services working one-on-one with an expectant mom, a lot of times you feel hesitant when you're meeting with that expectant mom to share the option of adoption, because you feel if I bring this option up, then she may feel that I might not, she thinks I might not make a good parent.
Would parents also feel that same way in terms of talking to their own children about this?
Well, not necessarily. Sometimes an expectant mom doesn't even know that option exists, or what the choices or the level of involvement that they have. So sometimes I think we fear what we don't understand.
Very true.
In a lot of society today, that adoption is still a very scary topic. And for me, it is not. You know, I've been with the agency almost 19 years, so a long time. So adoption does not have to be a scary topic. It honestly has changed and evolved over the past 20 years to offer the choices and involvement that you would not, a lot of people would not even wrap their head around what that entails.
Scary from the expectant mother's side. I'm going to use mothers
Yeah.
because women and mothers are pregnant,
right.
men are not. Let's be clear about that.
That's right.
But also scary from the adoptive parent side, I would imagine, because here you are a couple who would like to be parents and for whatever reason are unable to do so themselves, so they're entering into a system that they may not understand or be aware of to start down this process of what do I need to do to become eligible to become an adoptive parent.
Absolutely. That can be a scary process, and it is a lengthy process. You know, with our agency, we do have an approval process, so you do apply to become an adoptive parent. But one thing that I can say about our agency with certainty is that we prepare our parents in the adoption process from start to finish in many years after they would need us. So let's say your child is 18 and they have questions and they need that agency support. We are here to help. Going through that adoption process, we explain what open adoption looks like. And we have adoptive parents that, you know, may already have biological children and they just feel called to adopt. We have some families that can't have children. There are varying reasons why families decide to adopt, but the one reason is their motivation is pure to adopt.
Let's turn now to the abortion debate in this country. And I'll phrase this question. We did not talk about this beforehand, so I'll phrase this question to the best of my ability. The discussion in this country is around abortion rights. Now, whether it's health care, whether it's access to a clinic or to medication, it is framed in the terms of rights. Is there a similar conversation, or should there be a similar conversation about adoptive rights, about the right of a young or a pregnant woman or a pregnant couple to have a right to have the conversation about adoption in the same way that it is framed to have a right about an abortion? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, so good point. The abortion topic always talks about a woman's choice, a
Yes.
woman's right to choose.
My body, my choice.
My body, my choice. Therefore, there are two other options on the table. And what I like to tell an expectant mom when I'm meeting with her face to face and we're going over those options is it sounds that you want to have choices in your life. You're here because you're facing three choices and three options. Well, you can always decide that parenting and adoption are, you know, you can decide between the two. You can decide, hey, I've chosen adoption, but then you can change your mind and decide to parent, or you can choose adoption or you can decide to parent and choose adoption. You can change your mind. Abortion does not offer you those same options. That it doesn't allow you the right to change your mind. Mm-hmm. And in today's society, sometimes we have to take a step back. We have to think about a decision that's not based on emotion. Society tells us to think about, you know, my body, my choice, but also it's an emotional decision. It's very quick, and we want to think about it. You don't get a do-over when you walk out of those clinic doors, and we want women to be able to have that choice to change her mind.
It seems to me that the abortion debate gets a lot of press. It's a topic that just is there and it's going to continue to be there. But the adoption side of things really just doesn't get the press, nor do I believe that it is presented even in an equal light to the abortion or to having the child. It seems like it has a step back in that the mother or the parent, the couple, has to seek out that information as opposed to it being readily available to them. Is that a fair statement?
It is, and I think we're living in a society where it's income generated, and the abortion industry is very income generated.
It is that.
And so why would you offer the option of adoption when you have this patient in your clinic that would generate income for you.
Okay.
You know, that makes perfect sense that you would only refer that one healthcare option to that person. Whereas adoption, pregnancy centers, adoption agency, we're looking at that mother and that baby as a whole. We're thinking about their future life, their future self, and not about this one moment in time and this one decision that benefits you, the clinic. How does this benefit the mother and the child?
We talked about this in our last conversation, but I'd like to come back to it again. Tell us a little bit about the Foster to Adopt program.
So yeah, through the Baptist Children's Home, we are very fortunate to have partnered with them, and we have merged with the Baptist Children's Home. And they do have a wonderful Foster to Adopt program. There are obviously many kids in the foster system that need stable, parent homes that would love to bring in a child. And so the Baptist Children's Home does have that option for families right now who are not open to infant adoption, or perhaps you're in a different season of your life where an older child would make the most sense for you to bring into your home.
Is that another case where the potential foster to adoptive parents need to seek you out in terms of finding the
Yes, they could.
Yes.
They could call our agency, and that is separate. Our Foster to Adopt program is separate from families who are seeking to adopt domestically or internationally.
Yes.
So, those that are seeking to adopt domestically are open to infants or children under 5, and that means that parents, expectant parents, or parents who've already given birth will decide to, place that child for adoption.
I was, in preparing for our interview, I was struck by looking at your website and going to the page of families waiting to adopt.
Awesome, yeah.
That is quite, it's quite interesting to see the faces and see the people that are there. Can you share anything about what those families are going through, or what a generic, without using names, some stories that go on with that?
Yeah, so there's different seasons of their life that they are deciding to enter into the domestic program. Some families have adopted through our agency already. Some families are young and wanting to become hopeful adoptive parents and can't have children. And then there's some families that have their own biological children and just decide, we feel called to adopt. Mm-hmm. We know this is where, God is leading us. So, there are different reasons why families come to adopt. I can tell you that from an expectant parent point, when I meet with them, I talk with them and say, listen, families that come to our agency, no family that comes to our agency receives any adoption assistance to parent, which means that that their motivation is pure to adopt.
Okay.
And that for the right reasons, they want to be that child is brought into their home, and they are physically, financially, and emotionally stable to parent that child well.
What's the state of international adoptions these days? We have an increasing amount of conflict going on in the world. We've got just relations between countries at an all-time low. What's the state of international adoption?
So for right now, with our agency specifically, we are a direct placing. We have a direct placing program with the Philippines, for example.
Okay.
And so we are quite busy with a lot of those programs. And right now, we have several international adoptions that are, taking place. I think we pride ourselves that we have been, we started in 1978, and we started with just international adoption. So we have that ministry mindset. We have staff that is very knowledgeable in adoption, and we have good relationships with other countries so that we can facilitate those international adoptions.
Jennifer, the time goes by so fast.
Doesn't it?
As it does. But there are two things I want to touch on. First of all, you have a charitable event coming up this Friday. Tell us about that.
We do. So we actually have a golf tournament coming up at Belmont Lake Golf Club in Rocky Mount, and that is Friday, the 21st, April 21st. We start at 8 o'clock. So if you guys are interested in...
Or girls.
Or girls, that's
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
So if you are interested in, seeking out our golf tournament, you can call our main office at 704-847-0038.
And Caroline, any internet search with Carolina Adoption Services is going to bring you up.
Or Christian Adoption Services.
I'm sorry,
yes.
Christian Adoption Services will bring you up. It's first on the search
Yes.
list. So yes, yeah.
It is.
Just the need, I'm not even sure how to phrase it,
Right.
because I know that the need is there, And what, if there's one thing you wanted people to take away from our
Yeah.
interview today regarding the need, what would it be?
So the need is that it would be awesome if those that serve expectant parents, those that right now that you might have someone in your family, to share that option of adoption. What we don't want to see here, especially in our community, is that adoption is shameful. Adoption is not shameful. Every mother that chooses adoption loves their child, and it is a very well thought out, laid out decision. One with choices, one that comes with a lot of involvement even after that child is born.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to, get away from the stigma of shame and celebrate this decision. One, they chose life, but two,
yes.
they're thinking of a plan and a future, a hope and a future for their child.
What is in the child's best interest?
That's
at
right.
that point? And we hear that a lot in other places. We hear it in the criminal justice system. We hear it in the mental health system. We just don't oftentimes hear that on the adoption side of things.
We don't hear that debate going on even when it's a life or a life issue, or what is in the child's best interest. And I always like to say to my expectant moms, if you were the child and not the mother, what would you want your life to be like? If your unborn child was making this decision today, what decision would he or she make for themselves?
Yep. Jennifer, thank you.
You're so
Thank
welcome.
you very much.
Yeah.
Please come back again. This is a topic that is not, it's not going away, although I think you and I both wish that there was not a need for your services
Right.
at this point, but there always will be. And we would like to continue to keep this in front of our viewers. Thank you so very
You're
much.
so
for being
welcome.
here.
Thank you for having me.
Jennifer Faulkner with Kirsten Adoption Services. She is the North Carolina Domestic Adoption Supervisor. We're going to step aside for some commercials, and when we come back, Fred will have our last look at weather, and Wayne and I will be back to wrap things up. You're watching the live morning show presented by Don Bullock Chevrolet, and we'll be right back after these messages.